this thing is not seeming to work.
I promise I won't swear. I'll be good.
We gotta get Sennheiser to look at these things.
How are you doing over there?
So far, okay.
That's good.
A lot.
Well,
Makes it twice the fun.
that's right. Have you had your shots?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had mine. Did you get sick from it or anything?
Do what?
Did you have a reaction from it?
The first one, not at all. The second one, my arm was sore a little bit.
These
My
are
arm
a
was
mess.
sore open, but I never had any reaction at all as far as sick.
A lot of people I talked to did, especially the second one.
Chris did. Chris, the second one got Chris.
I was down out for a day and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Moderna?
A lot of people.
Huh?
Moderna?
Yeah.
Well, these are all malfunctioning.
But Tim didn't have any reaction either.
Pfizer was no problem.
I had a Moderna.
Well, he's like me.
Well, I had the Moderna.
Brain dead. So it don't matter.
We all
Yeah.
I had no problem either.
You know, it doesn't make any sense to who got it, who got a reaction.
No.
Well, I guess we'll get going without this thing. All right, well, we will call the Board of Selectmen meeting April the 5th at 4 o'clock to order. The first item of business will be to review the minutes of March 22nd. May we have a motion to consider it?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. We have a second.
Second?
Okay. Discussion on the minutes.
I have none.
I have two things.
Okay.
This wasn't on, that may be by the record. Patty, are you there?
I am.
Thank you. Okay, under sidewalk update, little one. Last sentence says was not DOT certified. It should be was not DOT pre-qualified. And the second thing I'd like added, on page 3, under Soundview preparations for summer, on the sentence it says Selectman Kerr and Selectman Nozel noted that they can understand the cost of increases but would like to see a senior discount. Please add that Selectman Nozel requested a veteran's discount also. That's all I have.
All right. With those changes, may we have I guess we can take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Very good. All right, so the next thing is to consider, well, it'll be the old business. I understand we have 313 cases, thereabouts, which hasn't been much of an increase over the last week or two, so that's encouraging. And I think everything within Town Hall is going well. I'm not aware of anybody that needs to quarantine. I think people are getting their shots, so that's good news as well. We'll go to project updates, the Soundview sidewalks. A lot been going on with that. You want to cover some of that, please?
Sure. As Tim knows, we had our agreement signed with the contractor who's doing the work on Hartford Avenue and Shore Road. That's Martin Lavero Contractors, Inc. They're out of Bristol, Connecticut. And we had a kickoff meeting. Both of these events took place on April 1st. So that's the good news. They're starting to bring some equipment in. They will be staging the equipment in the parking lot across from the park of the police department, and they have been requested to stage close to Shore Road and on the west end of the parking lot. The communications between the businesses and the homeowners have gone out again last week, plus all of them got a flyer in their door underneath their front doormat, updating them on the project, the fact that construction is slated to officially kick off this week and be substantially completed by Memorial Day. We had asked for the agenda says updated possible appropriation.
All participants have been muted.
It's all right, just to keep the background noise.
And so I guess I'll leave the appropriation discussion here next, unless there's anything you want to add on the construction, Tim. Okay. So the appropriation, we had, the committee has been talking off and on since the fall about a need for services, design services during construction. The town does not employ somebody to do that. We received a bid from BSC Group that Tim did sign maybe 10 days ago. But that money, that $15K for that function, needs to be appropriated. In addition, since our budget is the construction budget, which is $400,000, the bid that we awarded, the low bidder, came in at around $291K. We have some money to use for some improvements that we didn't think we had enough budget to do all the projects that we hoped to do. So we're looking at getting an estimate on the cost of those improvements. For example, finishing off the transportation, the bus center up across from the police station, and getting some quotes for curbing that we had decided not to put in because of the cost. And we need to get all that approved by the DOT. We have preliminary discussions. It sounds like it will be approvable, but of course we need to get the cost. Hoping that we have, enough budget, approximately $85,000 to play with. But we will need to account for some additional design work. Approximately $5,000 is the verbal that I received from our design engineer for that. So all of that would need to go into an appropriation. So around $20,000 would need to be appropriated, assuming some of the other costs that have been paid for out of the Selectmen's budget. Continues to do that. One of those costs is legal, and one of the legal efforts we did, which not only helps with this project, but will help with other projects, is a discussion on the prevailing wage. The town really took the approach with our town attorney that we are building new sidewalks, and the labor department feels that we are subject to a prevailing wage, which is, I think it's $100,000, and our project is $400,000. But the way the law read, it's for new construction is the exception, and we really felt that it was worth the effort for this project, other projects that have some state funding, that we take the time and effort to pursue that. So I'm very proud that we tried. We did not win the battle, but that was part of the legal And I do feel very strongly at the town expense. We also had an easement that for years and years and years, the Soundview community has had a little sign up at the Easy Mart house on 156 and Hartford Avenue, and we've never had an easement there. So once that was determined to do that, we had to go through those efforts to get that properly done, and so that was illegal. Then, of course, if you want your budget for your bid package to be reviewed by an attorney, make sure it's accurate. So those are the legal parts of that budget. And then we all had a little bit in contingency. Now that our budget is at this point $291,000, that brings down the contingency from $40,000, which is we could carry up to 10% of the grant, to $229,100. However, we are able to better utilize the $400,000 and not give it back to the state. We'll have to carry some contingency for that too. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Can we talk about what happened with the request for the appropriation?
The what?
The request for the appropriation of the Board of Finance.
No, I don't think the Board of Finance has seen any financials as to what would be above and beyond the stated, the winning bid and what was known, that memo I put together. I think we need a list of what is contemplated and what the costs will be. I think we have a good deal of leeway between the contract, the contingency, and the fee for construction. So my feeling is that we don't need an appropriation because those obviously, until we see a list of what is being considered to use those funds, they are part of the project at this point, and so that needs to be evaluated. And I think the Board of Finance would like to see that. I think the Selectmen should see, I don't know who's compiled the list, so I think that needs to be documented, and then we see whether that's worth using the money for, or should we not do the appropriation. It'll have to come out of surplus, and as we know, we use surplus to balance the budget as well, so I think it's wise to minimize the use of surplus if the project can be done. If it was, say, around $20,000 that would be needed to take care of the appropriation, then if there's a good bit of money still left there, so be it. So, okay. So.
Yeah, I think, as you know, our bids were opened on March 16th, and we were moving like a house on fire here. The committee that was available on April 1st walked the area and discussed some of the items that they would like estimates for, and I put those on this little list, I think, somewhere. But I think you're aware that it's blocked kind of from our last meeting of the committee, sort of taking the road that's been built to make that, I don't know what you call it, I think it was fold it off, break it off or something. Anyway, make it a road. And then put the sidewalk in there, put the bus shelter in there, maybe have some landscaping. And then there's some curbing, as I previously mentioned. So that's all eligible, we believe, from the DOT for under the $400,000 in construction. But what isn't eligible are the municipal costs. And that's
well, we understand that. But if we have approximately $86,000 difference here, including, I gather, the contingency. You're using 26,000, not 10%. What's that 10% of?
10% of the construction costs.
The incidentals. So that there may be some additional funds available from that. Who knows?
Right. We
So.
won't know until they start.
Is there a list of things that, we know about the bus shelter. The bus shelter likely will be provided by the transit district, the structure itself. There'll be costs to improve the area, whether it needs parking and all that stuff is yet to be determined. But when you figure there's probably 86,000, could be 100,000 available if this goes just right, that's a lot. And so if the 20 came off of that, there would still be 60 some odd thousand. So, without knowing precisely what we're talking about, I think it's premature to ask for an appropriation. Because obviously, if we have surplus money, we can do certain things, but I don't know that we have to go out and try to find things. If there's something pressing, let's look at it. If it's a need or a want, I think we have to distinguish. And I think the preferable thing would be to have the ineligible costs go to the line and take care of that.
That's where I'm confused on this whole...
All right, well, the way it works in municipal accounting, you have expenses. So over here you put your expenses, and we have to budget the full $400,000 for the project. So that has been done.
That's where I think the first mistake happened.
The what?
I think that was the first error in our budgeting. That's how much the grant was for construction.
That's coincidence.
Well, whatever you want to call it, the grant is for $400,000 for construction. That
All right,
does not
okay.
include ineligible.
So what you do in municipal accounting, you put the expense over here and you put the income, and that's the $400,000 grant. So if these costs, 313, were actually 400,000, then we would need an appropriation. But because the job costs 313, if you take 313 and 313, you'll still have money left over. So this is not the grant money. This is the grant money, the income. So when you spend the money, you can spend the 400. Obviously, you have to spend it on the grant-approved expenses to create what they want you to create, the sidewalks and all that. But once that's done, if you want to put in a bus shelter or you name it, extra stuff that was not part of the original deal, those become ads. And they might be grant eligible, but they're not necessarily part of the original project. So somebody's got to determine whether we spend $20,000. We could put it in the expense side, because this is not restricted to the project expenses that are eligible. So if this came through at 28313, you'd underspend the grant money. So you could say, okay, we'll use the grant money, but we're going to take 20 off of here, let's say, if that's the number, and you got 380. So you take 313 off of 380, and you still have decent money to spend on things. If you put in granite curbing, and it costs more than what they're doing, it would be grant eligible, but it might not be that necessary. So I think we need to get a list of what the committee is contemplating would use the extra money.
So what you're telling me today is that the grant, the $400,000 grant, for improvements that we were awarded for construction is on the income side, and that the town also approved $400,000 on the expense side.
Well, it's got a balance, right? And so if we did the job per the specifications for $313,000 or less, because there's contingency, if you didn't use the contingency, then you could stop right there, and you would not spend the full 400, and you would not use all the grant money. If we have this other stuff has to come out of the budget, and maybe there's contingency in there too that might not be needed, but let's say whatever's in there is, then you could take that off of the expense side, and you got less money, but it's still plenty to cover the project. So now you say, okay, we want to do the bus shelter. What's the cost of that going to be? The bus shelter was not part of the original project, and if there are other things...
Well, it actually was, but we pulled it out. We actually...
Well, it's not in there, so, I mean, the contractor's not doing it and so forth. So it's an extra, and there may be other things. There was talk about a concrete curb, but if a bituminous curb works, it's that might not be necessary. Who knows? Somebody's got to make that decision. But I think once we cover the basic construction, then we should not request an appropriation until we see the list of things that are being suggested, and the collective decision is those are very important things, and we'll use money out of the surplus beyond.
Mary Jo, with our bid or contract that we chose,
Yep.
how far up and down are we ending up contracting for 156?
The whole thing.
We're all from the corner all the way down.
Cross lane to PD.
So that was able to get in there. Okay.
It's the whole
All right.
project.
So the whole, before we were told it would cost $287,000 just for Hartford Avenue.
Right. Yeah, and I know.
And that-
they were going back and forth. I just want to know what would
And so
finalize.
we're very fortunate to have the company come in at a very aggressive bid.
Everything.
And I think we owe it to the taxpayers, not just to say, okay, well, we'll still get the appropriation, we'll figure out ways to spend the extra, $80-some-odd thousand.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise it has to be returned to the state.
Yeah. Okay.
And, right, we made decisions based on, to go out to bid based on the estimates that we had been given. And because the estimates, it didn't appear that we could do everything we thought would be wonderful, we scaled back, and that was what we presented to the DOT. Although the DOT had been telling us all along that the bids the towns had been receiving had been very favorable to towns. So we were crossing our fingers that we would be in that mold. But
Well, it's
3 out of the 5 bids came in under 400, so that was kind of a good check.
It's a nice position to be in, no doubt about it.
Okay, I think I've carried on enough about this, but I just want to final by saying generally, it's been my experience, we budget for everything. And the part of this, the expenses on the $400,000 that are not covered under this grant are the ineligible expenses, so that includes anything the design engineer does. That's it. Right now it's 15. I threw in the other things at the bottom of that sheet that we talked about. I talked about the legal. I talked about the easement, and then there is I got to find this, a bill for you, Tim, for $60 for printing, and then the advertising for the day.
Yeah, we have a bit of time to consider what the committee thinks would be worthwhile above and beyond the base stuff that we've been talking about all along. So.
It's a very short time, as you shared at our last committee meeting.
Yeah. And I suppose some of this work might not even be, would not have to be performed by Laverio, depending on what the nature of it is. Most likely it would be if it's related to the actual sidewalk itself, but...
Well, if you want to use the grant, it would have to be, otherwise we'd have to go out to bid again.
Okay. So I guess we could address this at the next meeting. When, is there another meeting scheduled?
Yes, April 13th is our next meeting.
15th?
13th.
3, 1, 3. Okay. All right. Next is the Haynes Park. The water tanks have been filled and with chlorinated and so forth, so I think that that process was ongoing last I heard. I have not heard that there's been any issue with the tanks and the purification and so forth. Once that's finalized, which is a different contractor than the builder, then that can be deemed to be satisfactory and the water can be used going forward. There's a company we use called Framboise, and they actually do water at Haynes Park and this facility in the Town Woods building, so they keep us on the straight and narrow with the water quality. By now, I think the various punch list items should be completed, such as touch-up paint and some other minor things, so that once that's all satisfied, then some additional retainage can be released to cover that. So that's virtually done.
How much does this bathroom cost us? Because it seems like it kept me weeks.
The what?
How much does the bathroom cost the town of
Total
Oakland?
cost.
The total cost?
Mm-hmm.
I have to look back. I think I'd have to look back. I don't want to. I'll get back to you on that because it's within the budget, and I think it's the one thing that was really not part of it was the demolition. But I'll bring you up to date on that because I don't have it right here. Next item is Grassy Hill. The Board of Finance, when they met last, they wanted us to confirm or revisit our recommendation. I had a conversation with the engineer, Howard Fromer. As we know, the preliminary design in 2018 was increased quite a lot when the final design was put together in November of 20. And so where we are right now is that the final design estimate of cost is over $1.2 million. And two things. We have an increased amount of money that we need to get from the DOT to approve the project and match the 50%. And then there's also the timing, which is principally related to the Army Corps of Engineer permit. And the way that is unfolding is that the timing for construction would likely be the summer of 2023 instead of 2022. So when the engineer corresponded with the DOT representative, there were not ironclad assurances. The quote from the email is, "I think we'll be okay with the increase." And then in terms of the time extension, we have an approval for the old amount, but it would need to be increased. And the quote was, "I see no issue with the general reasoning for the time extension. So obviously between now and 2 years from now, a lot can happen, but I think when we went through the numbers before, there are some significant contingencies built into the final estimate. And so, but as we've seen with COVID and so forth, the price of lumber and that sort of thing has increased a lot, but maybe actually prices will settle down once we move forward, and hopefully this COVID situation is pretty much taken care of. So at this time, it's really impossible to critique the amount. I think we can, in fact, right now, the state has not funded the bridge program. They generally do, but at the moment, it's unfunded, and not that, you know, we were in line for that lower amount on the preliminary design basis, but so once you're approved, it still has to be funded by the bonding commission and so forth. So that's a bit into the future for us. As we discussed at our earlier meetings, I think we have basically two choices: either to do nothing or to go with the full project. The last, our motion was to recommend to the Board of Finance to proceed with the full project at the $1,226,639. And so, given the time elapsed and so forth, the board would ask us to reconfirm or to change our mind if that's the case. But they have not funded, for us to get to the 50% level when this comes around in 2 years, we will need to put additional town dollars into the project. And I think that we are looking around $275,000 to $300,000 in aggregate to get up to the 50% portion that the town must have. So that can be done over 2 years if the Board of Finance is inclined to do it that way. It could be done in 1 year or for double. So I think unless anyone has a contrary opinion, our last statement was we recommend going with the full project, and knowing that there are still a lot of loose ends in terms of we haven't got a definite confirmation on the increase, and of course, 2 years hence, we don't know about the bonding, and it seemed like everything would be in place, but we don't have letters to prove it right now.
Right. Well, I think we should still move forward with it. I mean, we spent a lot of time, a lot of money into the engineering, and still plan for the 2-year date, pay it off over the next 2 years. Because it's only, A, the bridge is going to get worse, and B, the cost is going to get worse. So if we don't do it now, 10 years from now, it'd be 5 times as much. Who knows?
Well, we're not guaranteed a cost at this point.
I know we're not guaranteed a cost, but we know it's not going to go down, let's say.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're in it already. We might as well finish it.
Yeah, if we finished up the engineering, we'd probably have 90-some-odd thousand in engineering invested in it. So that's a factor. That would count toward our share of the cost, because the engineering fees are, for the most part, eligible for our share, which we paid 100%. So we get 50 cents back on that.
I concur again that we need to go forward with this project. It's not going to get any cheaper. We've worked with this engineer on many projects, and in fact, sometimes we come under budget, so I'm hopeful that we can take us somewhere with the other colleagues to make sure we come under budget. Part of this project is because of the work that has to be done at that corner. It's not just that teeny little bridge. It is a bigger project than it may appear. It's more than that bridge, and it is not going to get any cheaper, and it's not going to get more safe by doing nothing. That corner has already had numerous accidents. I'm not sure why we were not able to remind the Board of Finance at the last Tuesday's meeting that the Board of Selectmen had voted to go forward, and here we are again. So I noted that the Board of Finance did not vote to put the money in for the bridge. So are we wasting our time having this conversation or what?
All right, so we'll just...
It's a question for you, Tim.
Pardon?
It's a question for you. Is this conversation...
If you can't put that on the other side, it's much better when that thing's not...
The Board of Finance did not approve the money for the bridge last Tuesday in the budget. So is this conversation going anywhere?
I will report back that we have talked about it, and the consensus is that we recommend we continue moving forward with the project, and the Board of Finance will
Have to put it in.
make a decision whether they could always refuse to do it, but they would likely they could modify the budget to include a portion so that it's divided in 2 years and not in 1 year. So I'll convey that to the board. Okay, Ferry Road. I was hoping to see today a schematic of how the sidewalk would look on the south side of the street from the Congregational Church to Lieutenant River Lane. I think we have discussed the fact that if it were to be installed on the north side where the sidewalk is now, probably about 10 of the mature trees would have to be eliminated because of the root problem that exists there. So I wanted the engineer to map out showing where the poles are and any structures and vegetation, so that I think there are two areas where there might be some issues with existing vegetation, but it would be far less consequential than the other side of the street. I'm sure people on the south side may have an opinion about the sidewalk there, but it'll be a decision as to where we recommend it goes, and make sure the state of Connecticut is in agreement with changing the plan a little bit, and move forward with that. And then we obviously, once we make a decision as to which side of the street the walk would go on, we would then need to have conversations with the abutters on both sides of the street just to explain it and hopefully get as much concurrence as possible. So we'll get that, I expect, hopefully tomorrow, because I thought it would show up today, but we'll look at it, and I'll get you a copy of the schematic so you can see what we're talking about. Tanamahaig, I was hoping to get a letter out to the abutters to the landing just to explain what we agreed at the meeting, that we'd be receptive to parking up near the stone pillars, the entryway. I think we'd want to have someone check out the land and the grade and so forth to make sure there's adequate space to park a car, and do we need any precautions because the ground slopes off a lot there. And then the other was we'd have the spots down below, the 2 spots, and the hours would be until an hour after sunset. So those were the 2 things that they were interested in, and just say that's where we came out. So that'll go out this week. We are now talking about Soundview preparations, and I've asked Frank Papalardo if he was traveling, but I'll see if he's on the phone. But he's been involved. We had a meeting, and there'll be another meeting coming up with the police and some other parties to talk about the preparations. So let me see. I'll see if Frank is on the line. Frank, are you on the line? Okay. He may show up here soon. He was interested. Actually, there's an item down under 6D.
Tim?
Yeah.
Tim, I'm here now. I am here.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so I was just pointing out on our agenda there's an item that we'll consider in a little bit, which are to consider prohibiting stand-up paddle boards within the swim line areas. But then with respect to preparing for the season, you had mentioned in an email, I believe, the Soundview concert venue, which has historically been near the flagpole, but because the person who supplied the audio had a generator, we would need to depend on an electrical outlet, which is not sufficient to power the sound system. So do you have any, can you elaborate on the Soundview concert matter?
Yes, sir. Certainly. The power at the flagpole is not sufficient for general PA systems that are being used. So Frank Rada and Stephanie have offered the beach in front of the pavilion as an alternate venue. They would shut down the pavilion for the concert times, and we can hold the concerts on the sand in front of the pavilion. Give us plenty of room for people to separate and be distanced, and would have all the electricity we need. But because it's private property, our concern is that how do we get this thing done allowability-wise? Holding a town event on private property, are there some sort of insurance liability issues, and how do we move beyond those if they do exist?
I have a suggestion.
Also, I guess you had mentioned earlier that they would be closing off the liquor sales during the concert.
Yeah, they would shut down their liquor sales during the concert times.
All right. So he would, I guess, his interest in it would be to have food sales. I guess that's what.
He may offer food sales. He may not. He was, it was merely an offer for us to continue the concert series. And offer the property in front of the pavilion as as just a goodwill gesture.
Mm-hmm. So has your committee, Soundview committee, considered it?
We considered it. We agreed that it would be a very good alternate venue. It's a controlled area. It's fenced in area. So he's been monitoring it. The last year he monitored it with the COVID restrictions. So we thought that would be a good alternate venue. there may be some other opportunities there, maybe on the sand in front of Hartford Avenue, and possibly getting power from Kokomo's. That might be a little bit more complicated. That's public beach area, so there might be people sitting there when we set up for the concert, so that might be more difficult. Where in the pavilion area it is private, so you can more or less monitor to keep a section of the beach open for the band to set up. So we would set up on the beach right in front of where his deck is, and aim towards the water, and people could be on the sand, and not only in front of the pavilion but on the Swan Avenue side, and wherever they want.
Frank, Chris, I have a couple questions. Roughly,
Sure.
how many concerts do you plan on having?
4 concerts.
4 concerts?
4 concerts.
And then
Yeah.
the only
Now,
observation or
Go ahead.
comment I have about the sand, I think it's a great idea in one aspect, but what about footing for some of these people? Especially the elderly people walking on the sand. Will they have like hard?
Frank does have a boardwalk that goes on his property that goes from the Swan Avenue sidewalk down to the water. So if somebody wanted to, wheelchair or something, to get down to a reasonable spot on the sand, they could do it on the boardwalk.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so I guess...
Our only concern is that typically we've had a rain location at the community center. So this year, depending on what the COVID restrictions are, we may or may not have a rain location. So we're working right now with the entertainment committee to determine if the concert must be canceled due to inclement weather, whether we would have an alternate date or whether we would just cancel it. And obviously the best scenario would be that the restrictions be lifted and we'll be able to do a rain location in the community center. But we won't know that for another month or 2.
Frank, this is Mary Jo. Ed Adante has shared that he has a generator, number 1, and number 2 suggested, did we consider having it in the parking lot? The part that, we aren't using.
Well, we may be using the entire parking lot this year, so that we can't predict, obviously, one way or the other. The other thing too is there's cars parked in the parking lot, so we'd have to block off a number of spaces early enough in the day in order to have enough space for the people to congregate in the band. If Ed's got a generator, then we can do it at the end of Hartford Avenue, as long as the generator is, quiet enough. As long as it's a full sine wave generator and it's encased in something so that it's not too noisy.
Doesn't sound like...
So that's a great alternative if that's available, and we could always check it out to see whether that's doable.
Is it a fairly quiet generator?
Well, it's a 10K diesel generator. As far as the parking lot goes, you put it on the Portland Avenue side, and you still got that front area there to park and people stand. Then a generator, if you have enough boards, you just put it on the other side by the little snack bar. I mean, it's not that loud, but I mean, it makes more sense that you'd have people all in one spot. I do not anticipate you're going to see full parking there. And if we do, then that side of the parking lot gets closed off the four nights of the concert. I'm a big person when it comes to having something on private property. I mean, liability to the town is astronomical. I don't think it's a smart idea to put anything on private property. I know I'm not a taxpayer in town, but if I was, I'd be a little concerned because sand does funny things. People will lose their balance, they twist their ankles, and they don't even have to be in a wheelchair. I think the parking lot is the way to go.
That's the reason we bring up. That's the whole reason why we brought it up to the selectmen, because of the liability, to see if there's any insurance regulations or policies or riders that can be put on there. If the generator is sufficient, and we can do it either at the end of Hartford Avenue or the parking lot, great, then we've got the problem solved. I would probably look at trying to do it at the end of Hartford Avenue, just keep the venue the same location, the same place. And as an alternate, talk about the parking lot. But if your generator is functional, then that's great. We can work on the location, either the end of Hartford Avenue or the parking lot, as the next couple of weeks go by.
It's a 10K generator. It ran half my town garage. It's going to do more than enough to run that band.
It's not a trailer like that.
It's not the size of the generator, Ed. It's the sign. It's the wavelength. So some generators don't produce a pure sine wave, and if you don't produce a pure sine wave, then you get interference with electronic equipment, and it could damage electronic equipment.
Okay.
Is there any time during the week that maybe you can hook up with Ed and he can demonstrate that thing, see if it's quiet enough?
I'll go down there. I'm going to be there on Wednesday, and I'll connect up with them, and we'll take a look at it and see if we can come up with an answer.
Is the machine at the transfer station?
It's on a trailer. I put it on the trailer for hurricanes and stuff in case we ran into a problem somewhere. We can move it, hook it up to somebody.
What time do the concerts begin?
They go from 7 to 8:30.
Okay.
Yeah, they're hugely popular. They're really good.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the commission's concerns, and I kind of agree that, and I think Chris's comment was a good one too, about concern if somebody injures himself on private property is a real concern, and I do think we need to maybe consider talking with Kerma.
Oh, we would, unless we're going to eliminate this option. Now, the parking lot, it's not certain how we're going to arrange that this summer, if it's going to be all 100% parking for townspeople and the public, or whether there might be a section as it was last year. We haven't really gotten to that point yet, but I think you could, on a concert, you could have a sign that said, a certain portion of it would be reserved effective 7:30. Most people leave the beach, they're accustomed leaving at 6 o'clock. So 7 o'clock likely would be less of a problem, but you could code the spaces in the machine, hopefully, to not issue parking slips for those spaces that you want to reserve for the public. So we can look into that.
I think, that's certainly doable. We'll just check the generator issue, and if that's, I'll talk to Ed on Wednesday, and we can come up with a plan from that point.
Do you have some sort of
liability?
Do you have an ohm meter or whatever it would be to check the generator versus the electrical equipment?
No, I would just take the model and serial number off the generator and check on the manufacturer's website.
Okay. All right, good. Well, that may be a good solution.
Excellent.
Let's see. There's also, just this afternoon, we were talking about golf carts. I think there is a golf cart ordinance or regulation that exists, and we can check that out, but it was thought that within the Soundview area, which is a geographical area, there might be a registration process for golf carts. If they are carts that are owned and domiciled within Soundview, that's one thing. If a cart were to come from an adjacent beach, then they wouldn't be domiciled there, and they might have different criteria for that. So this is sort of developing, and we'll see about that, because ultimately the selectmen would need a proposal to approve, and I'll look and see. I think there is some sort of I thought there was an ordinance having to do with golf carts, so we'll check that out to be sure.
Actually, it's I believe it's under state statute, which allows the selectmen to provide that opportunity. And
yeah, but
today our meeting went pretty well, and we're going to finalize the information that we got today from yourself and from the trooper and the municipal policeman, and hopefully have a special meeting of the Soundview Commission to finalize our recommendations and have it to the selectmen within the next, hopefully before your next meeting.
Yeah, but I recall we had some sort of a document, so I'll look and see if I can see if it's in somewhere where that may be.
Yeah. Okay.
And the idea of we've gotten a request from Kokomo's and likely also from Pavilion that they would like, as they had last year, an accommodation to park employees in our lot. It would have to be a formal arrangement. Last year we more or less did things fairly informally, but this would probably be much more formal. And I think we looked at what the parking revenue is and divided by the number of spaces, and it turned out to be about $1,000 revenue per space in Soundview for the season. So if we decided we would want to have some employee parking there to help the businesses, then it would be, we would select a rate to charge. The restaurants could also consider talking with any of the permitted lots, and it might come up with a different deal. So we haven't really formalized anything at this point, but I don't know if that would be a big sticker shock for the bar owners if it was in the vicinity of $1,000 or maybe slightly less, but nevertheless it can't be a heck of a lot less, because that lot is the closest lot to the beach, so understandably it's popular.
Well, it's premium real estate, no question about it.
Yeah. And we're also looking at improving the whole parking process. We want to make sure how the parking tickets work. We want to review the signage. We want to review the markings for the parking spaces on the street so that people coming to town have a very clear understanding of how things work. I think last year there were too many signs and it was not clear. So I think we're reviewing that, so when the season begins we'll be ready to go. And we do have one of the rangers who now is able to work the kiosk machine to be able to program it. So if, for instance, if there is a business spot, if you put the number of your space into the business spot, even though the numbers are blocked out, people can count before and after and figure out that's their space number, and that thing would issue a parking slip that you pay money for, when really it is a commercial space, and I think it's a 30-minute maximum, and there is no fee required. So get rid of some of these glitches and make everything work properly. So we're meeting Wednesday with the police to talk further about these things. So I think at our next meeting we can probably have some recommendations and come up with answers. Did you have anything more, Frank?
No, not until you get to the next item, but I think it's later on in the agenda. So
all right.
I think you pretty much covered it all, and hopefully, like I said, we'll have our recommendation regarding golf carts. Just kind of generally regarding the golf carts, we came up with a two-pronged approach. One was the authority, a document which outlines the authority for the town of Old Lyme to issue golf cart registrations, things like that, and to do so. And the other document was specific to the Soundview jurisdiction area. We did that special so that if other areas of the town want to employ golf carts, they can do their own specialized area designations. But you'll have a better indication of what that's all about at the next meeting. Hopefully, we'll have the documents all cleaned up, ready for your review.
Good. Chris, did you have something?
No?
All right, then we'll turn to new business. The town budget, the Board of Finance did the first run through the budget, and getting to the bottom line, it looks, there was a recommendation to use $400,000 from surplus to augment the budget. And I think that would make let's see, the mill rate would probably go up, let's see, because it's here for 300 and 600, so probably like 0.15%. One of the major helps, of course, this year is that the school came in with a very low increase itself, and some of that was due to the federal money, and the town spending was less as well, not as low as the school. So the board will have a hearing in April here, and
Can I ask a question before we do? What happens about this bridge? So if we put this bridge through, they're going to have to change their numbers.
yes.
So this might all...
Yeah, I'll speak to the chairman about this situation and see. They may want to they could have a special meeting and consider what to do.
A bridge?
What?
What did you say?
The Grassy Hill Bridge.
If we put that through, right now that bridge is not on that budget.
That's right.
Yeah,
So it would change this number.
That's correct.
right. So
That's why I said what I said, that they didn't approve the monies for the bridge on Tuesday.
Right. That's why I said this number doesn't include it.
That's right.
yeah. Well, they just wanted to look at it again. So there'll be the hearing and then the vote in May.
The hearing is tonight. The hearing is tonight, this evening, 6:30.
The school hearings tonight.
That's correct.
Yeah, but not I'm talking about the town Board of Finance hearing, which will be about 2 weeks later.
Okay.
Yeah. Swan Brook Outlet.
Wait, we're still on the budget, right?
Yes.
So, I had asked that you put the ethics request for a budget on the agenda, and I just was hoping that we could discuss where we left off last time we talked about it.
Well, the Board of Finance did approve a budget of $4,390 with a condition. So that
What's the condition?
the condition would be that whichever lawyer is going to consider changes to the ordinance, they would spend, there had been a request for a certain amount of hours from the lawyer. We'd like to have the attorney spend as minimum amount of time as possible to make some recommendations, because as opposed to just going ahead and doing the whole job, I think we want to hear, I'm going to mute this thing.
Well, I pulled up right before it came the minutes of the meeting.
All participants.
I
Yeah.
recognize this haven't been approved yet, but a motion was made by Ms. Brighter, seconded by Mr. Burnblum to approve $4,390 for the Ethics Commission. Motion carried. There's no condition, number one.
Well, the Board of Finance has conditions.
Well, it's not in the minutes, so I'm just saying that it's not in the minutes, so that's number one. Number two, it looks like the Board of Finance did not approve any money for a clerk.
The what?
The Board of Finance did not approve money for a clerk for this commission. That money was taken
The
out.
$4,390?
Yeah, because
That was approved by the Board of Finance.
but one of the budgets we had received early on was $4,890, and it was for a clerk.
Now, there
It
were,
included monies for a clerk. Does this budget include monies for
Yes,
a clerk?
$1,000 for administrative.
So what was reduced then from the request of $4,890 to $4,000?
I don't know where that number's coming from. You can see she submitted for $5,390, but there was a mathematical error. It should be $4,390, and that's what was,
Okay, so that was a math error?
yeah, $1,000.
Okay. So, I was just looking at the email we sent us. Had we go for 8 hours, meetings with the commission 2 hours, prep for town meeting 2 hours.
Yeah, 14 hours at 185, that's right.
Advertising 800,
Yep,
administrative for minutes, posting, etc. I'm assuming that's clerk.
yep. Add them together, and what do you get?
And it said 500 estimate was 1,000. So
The what?
on hers it said 500 is the estimate, it was 1,000.
She agreed to 500, but the board approved the full 1,000.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And of course, as we know, the commission was pretty dormant there for a number of years, so they're hopefully going to do what they have to do, and if they don't have many cases, this budget should be way in excess of what they need. But anyway,
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that there is money there for a clerk, and
yeah, if you add those three numbers up,
there is
you'll
no condition
you'll
on your minutes.
come up with $1,000 less. Okay. The Swan Brook outlet, there has been discussion on what to do about the outfall of the Swan Brook outlet. There is two 36-inch pipes which run under the beach belonging to Hawks Nest Beach Club Association. And the wooden crib, I call it, at the end of it is in very bad repair, and it has been for a while. The orientation of the crib also is not helpful because it more or less points toward where the wind comes from, which drives the sand into the structure and into the pipe. So one of the pipes, in fact, has plugged up with sand, and one works, one is blocked. So the representatives from Miami Beach and from Hawks Nest were present, along with the engineer and myself and Ed Dante. So it could be a two-step situation where, for the short term, we want to make the piping system work properly, which means could we unplug the west pipe, which doesn't flow at the moment? And there was discussion about why is it plugged, and it could be simply sand, it could be somebody thinks there's some sort of a rock in the pipe that started the problem, so we're not sure. The engineer had an idea of some alternate ways to do this, one of which would be to create a swale type thing that would be along the border of Miami Beach and Hawks Nest Beach here, so that the water would flow from Swan Brook probably 20 to 30 yards to the east, and it'd be a straight shot from the brook down along the border and into the water. No pipe, it would be a swale. There were other discussions about different, one of the people from Miami knows a lot about piping, and he had some ideas. But we're trying to see what we can do to make this work, maybe not to be the long-term solution, although the schematic I got, I'm not sure whether this is a proposal that could be a longer-term solution. But the idea would be to resurrect the crib idea, maybe not with wood the way it is, but at the end to have sort of a hockey stick pattern to block the southwest, so that when the wind and wave action, it would prevent the sand from just piling into the structure. And there were discussions about, since the wood doesn't seem to last that long, could we use some sort of concrete block treatment instead of the wood sides that could be like these big, not a Jersey barrier because that's too tall and skinny, but a big rectangle, heavy block. So we had a meeting and discussed that, and the force of the water is pretty amazing. So if you were to try to stack even with two and then stack on top, the top block might move, even though the thing is wickedly heavy. So the schematic shows something similar to what was there. I'm not sure exactly. When I got a phone message from the engineer that the end would likely be a sheet pile, meaning driven probably like 15-foot sections of metal that would be driven into the sand, so it would stay there. Currently the pilings that support the wood sides are probably 15 feet driven in as well. So we talked about how the cost of a project like this might be shared between the people who have an interest in it. The town has certainly refurbished this crib, but the town doesn't own the beach. The town doesn't really own the brook. There's no real estate that the town has. The beach folks pointed out that the water comes from all over Old Lyme, who knows from where. And so, but that's true of a lot of water courses. And so I think we have to have a very candid conversation about how might this be funded. In truth, there is a Hartford Avenue drainage system for the catch basins winds up in a pipe which goes behind the beach and lands in Swan Brook. So we contribute water to this brook on occasion when it rains, but not consistently. So in a way, our involvement would be fair, but as to what proportion and so forth. So we haven't really resolved that situation. But clearly the wood part of this crib is in terrible repair, and kids being kids, if they climb on it and so forth, somebody could be injured with one thing or another. So it would be great to make it safe. So the question I have for the engineer is whether this is, when you start driving pile into the sand and so forth, that's that's a different level of repair, so it might be a great idea, but it might mean this would have a longer lifespan in just a couple, 3 years until a different concept could be developed. So we're going to meet probably within the next couple of weeks, I expect, to consider this plan and get more intelligence on it. And I think we have to say that the property owners, Miami and Hawks Nest, see, I don't believe Hawks Nest is anywhere near like a beach association in Miami where all residents pay dues and they pay mill rate and all this. I think Hawks Nest is much more open-ended. And I'm not sure if you said, well, who are the people that use this beach? It's probably not anybody who has a house in, quote, Hawks Nest. I think it's a smaller group of people.
Well, this is a Hawks Nest Beach Club, right?
Right.
It's not a beach association.
No, it is
We
not.
gotta clarify that on everything here.
Oh, I said that. I said it's not, it's not like Miami at all. It's, so if it's just a group of people who, I don't know if it's like a beach club type, you might find Mile Creek or Old Line Beach Club, or whether who's eligible to be involved and so forth.
Well,
but
someone must be paying the taxes on this beach club land.
yeah, probably minimal,
But there must be a billing address.
no building.
No, billing address.
Oh, I expect so. Probably goes to some person in
Right.
Weathersfield.
There's got to be an organization that would be,
Yeah.
be responsible.
But when I was talking to the person who represented Hawks Nest Beach Club, and this was not recently, this was a year ago, he said, gee, there are a few people who are involved, and trying to raise meaningful money would be interesting, challenging. So, but I think we have to, before when we fixed the wood crib, it was around $10,000, so it's an expense, but not that bad. I think if you, to unclog this pipe, I think we're talking probably 15,000 or more to root it and see if you can get if there's a block, if there's some kind of a stone in there, how do you get that out and all that stuff. So
who's hired the engineer? Is it DACO? Is that the engineer you've been referring to? Who has hired him for this?
We asked him to come out and give us some plans, so he's not really on a mission or an assignment really. He did the design of the prior thing, and he deals in this marine engineering. He did the Academy Lane fire dock. Mm-hmm. So we figured he would be a good one to guide us, and so there's no specific plan on the table at this point. Some ideas, and
So no cost yet.
well, he's billed some hours, but not big yet. We haven't said, okay, design. This is pretty much what he had in the past, all this stuff, and he's made this end change and stuff. So, but obviously, it's going to be a bit of a sticky wicket to say who should be funding this, because when you think of any water course, the water comes from the town of Old Lyme, but when you think of a town parcel, it's hard to say, well, the town should do the whole thing.
But it also comes from the state of Connecticut, 156.
Sure.
So, I mean,
yeah. Now, maybe probably the time is too short for this specific thing to get some help from the federal government with this infrastructure. But whether as part of that whole thing that's being discussed now, maybe there'd be some hope for that.
How about FEMA? Because if this block backs up, it's gonna flood half of Miami Beach.
Yeah, it's possible. I know that Old Lyme Shores and Old Colony got a big bunch of money from, maybe it was FEMA, I'm not sure the exact source, but they fixed from the water way back through the boundary of those two beaches.
Yeah.
And they weren't asking the town to fix it, you know, that went between their two beaches, and appropriately they fixed it.
Well, I think the town had to sign on to that. They were as I remember the press release anyway, it came to the town of Old Lyme, but the two private beach associations were the drivers. But it did come to the town of Old Lyme.
Yeah, but I guess in the end, we didn't have to fund any money, which is, that's the goal.
And I guess, I mean, I'm just pulling a thread here. How would this, in supporting this effort for Hawks Nest, how would that work with some of the requests that White Sands have made of us, that we kind of feel we have some responsibility to helping them out, but then we don't get...
Well, I think White Sand is much clearer that it's a DEP. In fact, I have a copy of a pamphlet from years ago that DEP was talking about when the pipe from the marsh and so forth was done and modified. So I think DEP can be deemed to be the one that put the pipes in and so forth. And we have helped over the years in, I don't know if you call it emergency, but when there's been a need, and I think Public Works has gone on the beach and removed sand from the end of the pipe so it would work. But that's another one that's a mess, and I think we've been careful to say, this is not our pipe.
Well, this is not our pipe either. So
we're not sure.
If we're going to say one pipe's not ours, we got to be consistent.
Well, we don't know who put this pipe in.
Well, this is definitely not our pipe. I mean, this is a beach club and a beach association.
Well, we don't know who installed the pipe under the sand. It may, I don't know that that same gang, you know, different people would have had the money to put two 36-inch pipes, but...
Well, I think we have to tread lightly on this and figure out...
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying, just because we fixed the end outlet, that doesn't mean that this is ours. And, you know, I'm sure they are saying the town put the pipe in under the sand. We don't know. It's been done a lot of years ago because it looks like a pretty old-fashioned concrete pipe, similar to somewhat like the it's not White Sand Beach actually, it's Howard Beach, I think.
The pipe on White Sand Beach, which I always thought with White Sand Beach, is private. It doesn't belong to White Sands.
Well,
when we met there, they made that clear, and I went, and you were there, I said, I'm staying off this then, this is a private beach.
I think it's Howard Beach, it's not White Sand Beach.
Yeah, but anyway, I always thought it was part of White Sands. Those property owners in those houses own that pipe, own that beach. So when we were at the meeting, the DEP guy was there, and I said, I'm staying out of this. I'm not going out. We're lucky through the years that we haven't done some damage. And we went in there as it was, because the pipe jammed, and we put new 18-inch pipe down that beach, which we really shouldn't have done. But I was assuming from back when Johnny Roach was here that pipe was part of White Sands Beach, and it's not. It belongs to all those houses in the front.
Yeah. Well, even if it was White Sand Beach, it still wouldn't be our responsibility, technically.
Just like as far as I'm doing Hawks Nest.
But I think it's pretty well agreed that DEP owns the pipe and so forth. Now, will they fix it to make it work right for the people? They pretty much say, we don't have the funding.
Right.
We hear your problem, but we can't help you.
Now, they've cleared off a couple of the manhole covers. Do you want me to go down there still and open that up, or should we wait till this is clarified what we're going to do for that pipe that's blocked?
we probably should get that Gary Schmidt. He's the guy that.
Well, he's got 2 or 3 of them exposed, and like I said at the meeting, when someone said they're not that deep, some of them are down 3-4 feet, and he admitted it. I know, we had to fix them once because the joints opened up.
Are they bolted?
He doesn't think they are, but I haven't been down there yet to hit them with a sledgehammer and see if we can get them off.
Yeah. Well,
But here's the other problem. They've been there a lot of years. I start beating on that top, and that top cracks. What do we do then? You got a lot of ifs. We got Briscoes. That thing being buried for all those years, that manhole cover, I whacked that thing with a sledgehammer. I could put the hammer right through it. Now what do we do? Now we gotta get someone in there to fix it right. So it's a big, yeah. I mean, I think we need to talk to an attorney and see what's going on here, because we can open up a big can of worms if I go down there and start beating on that cap.
well, I don't think it's our responsibility to do all that. I think we have to have a general agreement on what's the scope of this. If this is just a 2-year fix, 3-year fix, that's one thing. It would be nice to get in there, but maybe Gary or one of the people there tries to pry it off and see.
He exposed them, Gary, but the thing was that I said at the meeting, well, we may go down and open them up. And the more I went down and looked at them, and I'm going, if I break one of those tops, where are we now? Now we're liable to put it back. And it's not going to be cheap. Because now you're going to really estimate to get down there and get to the pipe.
Is it a metal thing that goes down?
Yeah, it's just like a manhole cover. But being buried for all those years in that sand and everything, I don't know how deteriorated that cover is. I mean, you could put a sledgehammer right through it. Now you've got to excavate all the way around it, and you're going to have some type of shoring so the sand don't cave in. And now you got to get in crystals. Now you got to get in there, and if you damage the pipe, now you got to start replacing sections of pipe.
Yeah.
It's a big can of worms that I don't think we want to mess with.
How about anybody, was it ever brought up with the flood and erosion committee or commission, or, they might be able to, I mean, I'm nervous about this. This is not town property, that's the problem.
Right, and
we're being nice, Keith did some stuff down there, but I don't think it's the responsibility of the town.
No. We have some, because some of the Harvard Avenue water goes there, we have some interest in making sure it works right. But I think we have to get consensus on, if it costs, let's say $1,000 to fix it, how are you going to carve it up?
Well, I think they should be doing the legwork and figuring out what's going on. Not the town.
But there is a precedent that we fix this outfall, and sometimes generosity can turn around and bite you. But
well, I think it's biting right now.
So that's where we are. It's still trying to find out, because
I could see how the town might be able to assist in filling out a grant, like what the Private Beach Association did down in Old Lyme Shores or something like that. But
yeah,
I don't see that we should be going in there and doing anything, especially where we might have some liability. That doesn't make sense.
So are we in agreement that I really shouldn't go down there and try to open those covers? I don't think it's a smart move. We could, Chris, am I right? I mean, we could do some damage in there, and
I don't.
And
personally, I think the town shouldn't be getting involved with it.
And we're in private property.
I guess Gary might
He's not going to be happy with it.
look at it.
But he got them exposed, and I said, well, do they look bolted? He said, no. And then I said, well, okay, I'll try to get down there this week. And then I'm thinking about going, Ed, you could open up a can of worms there.
Yeah, all right. All right, well, we get where we are, and, the main thing was that the structure is in very bad shape and should be fixed, but we have got a lot of work to do to figure that out, and the season's fast upon us, so.
You're right, it needs an engineer to look at it and see what the problem is here, and who's going to pay for that? That's not going to be cheap, because once again,
Well, just just trying to clear the blockage is not going to be cheap. You were there, and
I know.
yeah.
I just am very leery about starting to beat on those covers when they're 50 years old. They gotta be
Yeah,
old.
but that's just getting a look at it, much less, because to get the sand out could be pretty expensive. To fix the crib is going to be pretty expensive, and so,
And you can say what you want. They say no, the bottom's there, but those pipes have been in there a lot of years. You can start fooling with them, clean them out. Now the joints let go because one of them has, and we had to go down there and fix it. There could be no bottom in certain ones. I mean, you don't know. You really don't know.
well, we know it's blocked.
Yeah, it's clogged, yeah, but I'm just saying.
So more on that later. Memorial Day Parade. This is, I guess we can do this in two parts. Tony Vallombroso sent me a communication that the middle school band is up for participating in the parade. Haven't heard back from the high school band or any other things. Boy Scouts apparently would be eager to participate in a parade. The fire company, I'm sure, would have some apparatus and so on and so forth.
Girl Scouts?
The what?
Did you call the Girl Scouts?
I spoke to Mr. Wayland, our ex-Boy Scout leader, and he said they are up for it.
Well, that's the Boy Scouts. You're missing half the population there.
Yeah, so the question is, do we want to recommend or say that if the details can be put together, we endorse having the Memorial Day Parade? I think the comment from the band was they'd like to have the full width of the street so that they could have the kids more separated, because if people park along the side of the street, it narrows it, of course. That could be accomplished. And then the word would get out about the other groups. I don't know whether the Park and Rec teams would be, could talk with Mr. Bugby if that was the case. We wanted to proceed with the parade and see if we get a critical mass. I know the VFW is prepared to do the cemetery portion of it. So it seems like there's some momentum to have the parade. We know that Midsummer was canceled a bit ago, and so that will not be happening, but that's separate and distinct. So I guess we need to make a call whether we want to have the parade or not as a board.
Did it get budgeted?
Pardon?
What's the budget for it? I mean, is it budgeted in this year's budget?
The budget we have is really for the fire department. They will not be doing any kind of refreshments and hot dogs and so forth. So it should be, there was money in this year's budget which does not end until after the parade, of course.
Right.
So if it happened, they might have to compensate some bands from out of town that they have the Deep River muster or something like that. But if they spend, generally, I think the budget is something like $4,000 for the parade.
That's what I recall. Yeah.
But it might be, I don't know if it would be as low as one half if they got some other bands and stuff. But without the food and drink and so forth, that would probably save money off the top.
They're going to do the flagpole, right? Out of that $4,000, they were going to do the flagpole online?
There's no expense to the cemetery. I think
Or was it this flagpole? There was one of the flagpoles on Lime Street that was going to come out of that budget. I don't know how much that is.
well, they bought the flags already. You mean the flags that are hung on the
The
pole?
flagpole, the pole itself, they were going to pay for it out of that $4,000. I remember seeing it at some meeting. So we'd be down whatever that
You
is.
mean in the cemetery?
No, it was Lime Street, that's why I thought.
This one here?
I don't know which one, it said Lime Street, so I assumed it was this one.
No, I think what they're talking about are the various flags on the telephone poles that decorate the street from Memorial Day to Veterans Day. Because Tony ordered a bunch of flags that
Because every year they take a meeting and they have to replace it.
Okay.
yeah.
But it should be cheaper because they're not doing all the hot dogs, they're not doing all the stuff at the fire department and anything like that. So, I mean, there was a few bands, or what I think is the New London Fife and Drum, and I think what is it, Deep River, or I don't know which one it is, it's only for,
It probably wouldn't exceed $3,000.
it's gotta be under $3,000, I would think.
Yeah.
Because they, the hot dogs added up,
And
all the refreshments added up. And
so-
that was the big,
If the Board of Finance was thinking if all this stuff was canceled, the money would just roll over to next year.
Right.
So if they used 2/3 of it, then
They would be short.
we'd have to, next budget they'd have to freshen it up a little bit.
Right. Yeah. How do you propose, or how do you see people social distancing with a parade and then the ceremony at the?
I think we just leave it up to people to be smart. I don't think we have to have, constables walking around telling people to separate. You're going to have the groups who are families and whatever else, and it's outside, and a lot of people have gotten their shots, so I think we just say, as usual, we want you to wear masks and keep your distance from people you don't know, and leave it up to the individuals to be smart about it.
A lot of
It's
people,
worked really well in Old Lyme.
a lot of people, they don't feel safe when they
right, you always get some people that only move.
And then, so with parking, you could have people using the school that are close to Lime Street, this down here, and then at the other end, they can park on the grass going around the corner as they normally do.
Maybe the church.
Okay, so I'm just, if we're still under the governor's orders, I don't know if we will be at that point, because they're what, till May 20th? So this would follow that, so who knows? I thought we were supposed to have, we had an amount of people that were allowed at outside events even. What is that?
Yeah, well, it's not a venue like a field, it's a quarter of a mile.
Right.
So I don't think you really get the same criteria. It's not like people are congregating at a soccer game or something.
I agree it's unique and it's special, but I just don't know if that falls under any state regulation.
Right. But when they talk about, I think they're talking about like a wedding facility, if you have a wedding or a concert in a confined space. People are naturally going to separate. And when you do the march, they're not packed shoulder to shoulder like the Irish parade in Manhattan or something. They're kind of spread out and all. And I think
without the refreshments, then people won't be hanging around either after it.
No.
They'll be leaving.
Yeah.
They won't have the crowd.
And once
When they bought the firehouse and
once people get down to the cemetery, unless they're
Right.
there, they kind of split
Right.
anyway. So
And maybe even on the way back, I don't know if they'd do the same march all the way back or just make your way back without that.
I see everybody's concerned, but I think the town needs the parade. I really think people are.
I think it'd be nice to do it if we can do it.
Well,
I'll make a motion to do it. If we, unless the state comes down and says absolutely not. But I think the way we have it set up, there's plenty of space.
yeah.
I'll second. I'd like to see that you look at who's going to shouldn't be part of this. I mean, I'm a little offended that you looked at the Boy Scouts and you didn't ask the Girl Scouts, so I don't think that's right. So, I think.
Well, that was just Tony here. He just did
We'll do that.
a census, just seeing if everybody was interested in doing it. He didn't put it out yet, so
Yeah, they need to know,
It's
'cause
it's not official yet.
It's
So
not right, that he just looked at the Boy Scouts and didn't, it's just not right. So, you know, I'm kind of neutral at this point. I'd like to see who's really going to participate. That's great that the middle school wants, but is Regional School District 18 behind it?
I think the fact that one of the bands responded, she says, let me see, where does it say? We have contacted the superintendent who has given his papal blessing for the school's participation.
She said what? Papal blessing? Is that what she said? Okay. I would like to hear that from Ian before I trust Mrs. Wind on that one, personally. And I'd like to know why the middle school would want to go and not do it and not the high school. I think that's confusing to me.
Well, I don't think I mean, it's not that they are not doing it. We just haven't gotten confirmation that they will do it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think those are good questions to ask.
I think you should talk to Tony. He'll be able to fill you in on what he's done on this thing, and you can clarify everything with him. And I'm sure he'll have an answer for everyone when you just ask.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to check with the state. So I think we need to check with Regional School District 18. We need to make sure we've got, as you said, Tim, critical mass of people that even can march, and it has to be all the typical attendees are contacted. And I think we have to check with the state before I feel like I can say yay or nay.
All right, do we want to get a motion saying we'll check with the state?
I'll get a motion that we check with the state and see.
I'll second it, just to keep this moving. Any other discussion?
You'll check with the other participants that typically march?
No, we'll have Tony do that. He's the parade master. We'll probably get some people in old cars, and who knows who's, I mean, we don't need to have confirmation. Everybody who normally goes in the parade will be participating. Some may say it's not.
I don't think it's fair not to ask the usual people that participate.
Tony will, is what I'm telling you, Mary Jo.
Okay.
He was just asking if the town would be willing to do the parade.
We'll check with the state, and if they don't say can't do it, then we'll leave the parade committee to proceed. All right? All in favor? Aye. All right. If Mr. Papalardo.
Fireworks, Tim.
Oh. I don't think it's a good idea because the Midsummer Festival has been canceled, and this would be all by itself, and it's a lot of money to, and usually it's a capstone on that very enjoyable day, and that's just my thought.
Well, I think it coincides with the whole, that weekend, Midsummer weekend, so if we're not doing the Midsummers, why do the fireworks?
Yeah.
I agree.
I know there was a discussion at one of the Board of Finance meetings whether the town would want to put in to help, I guess the Hawk's Nest is doing the fireworks show, a barge from the water. There was a discussion on whether the town would want to participate financially in that, and I wasn't sure what this board thought about that. And then secondly, I had put a proposal together maybe 6 months ago for a drone show, and I wasn't sure if you guys had looked into that.
Well, we saw that, yeah. Doesn't have explosions. Not as fun.
No, it does not.
Unless they blow up.
Well, with the Hawk's Nest thing, where would the townspeople park?
Yes,
So,
That was always our conundrum with that. I mean, when it was off of Sound View, it's great for the property owners and the bars But if you wanted to have 1,000 or 2,000 residents go down there, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. So I just say skip it and hope for the best. Maybe next
I mean, they could make a request of the Board of Finance and us, but there's, Garvin pointed out that they're proceeding, and it was more or less, he said, if you'd like to contribute, please, don't be bashful, but he didn't go to the Board of Finance and say, because he's going to do something that's probably tantamount to that, because it's on a barge, and that really pushes the cost.
So I mean, that sounds like we have to plan for that day at Soundview also, but I guess we haven't had a discussion here about that, or an alternative, since they are going to go forward with the turf field, an alternative for fireworks for the town, since they're going to be putting the turf field where we typically let the fireworks go from.
Well,
we'll have to deal with that next year, because if we don't have it this year, we won't have to worry about it.
You're right. We probably need to put that on the agenda coming up to get, the fire department looking at alternative placements for it then.
well, it may be that we looked thoroughly before we settled on the school. You can't do it at Townwoods because of the horses. And there's just no good venue that I'm aware of that you could have an alternate site for it. I think Lyme did one up near, Ely, what's that road goes? Ely's Ferry, and then it comes on our side.
Cove Road?
No, near the old Ashlawn farm there.
Oh, Bill Hill?
Bill Hill. Yeah, back down toward Lyme from there, they put one in a field there, but it's the distances you need for a decent show with no houses is pretty amazing, like 600 or 700 feet, and the bigger the shell, the bigger the distance. So,
well, we have 6 months to think about it, because we'll definitely be planning on it for next budget season, if we can do it.
Well, the money will be rolled over, yeah. Okay, I'm going to get Frank back on the line here.
All participants are being asked to unmute themselves.
Frank, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we're up to the paddleboard in the swim area. On the surface of things, it doesn't sound that controversial. You have swimmers and you have a long board with somebody with an oar running around. Doesn't seem like it's compatible. So what else can you tell about us?
Well, apparently there was a change in the way that the Coast Guard defined paddleboards. The Coast Guard defines things like kayaks and canoes and inflatable boats as vessels, and the state said, you can't have a vessel inside a swim area or inside what they call a surf area, and the state defines the swim area as a surf area. Coast Guard changed their designation of what a stand-up paddleboard was a couple of years ago, and they said, okay, if the stand-up paddleboard is outside the swim area, it's a vessel. But if it's inside the swim area, it's not considered a vessel. Well, with that change of designation, it is de facto allowed in a swim area because it's not a vessel. So we have to have some sort of regulatory issuance from the town that says that stand-up paddleboards are not allowed in the swim area, in the defined swim area. And I think I sent a letter out to everybody, to all the selectmen on this a while back.
Yeah.
I think it's just pretty simple. Just no paddleboards in the swim areas.
I'll make a motion to prohibit stand-up paddleboards, whether inflatable or non-inflatable, within the swim area.
Pretty cut and dry. Second.
All right. Do you know, Frank, is there a specific, where would this regulation be covered? I don't think it's an ordinance, but I don't know what.
We could put it on the prohibited board down at the beach, where it says prohibited item.
Yeah, but there's probably got to be some document that talks about swim areas and what can happen, what can't happen. So we'll have to, maybe I can ask Don Bugby if he knows. There's probably some document that needs to be modified so it's official, and then put it on the signs, as you say.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that we did have a discussion with this with Harry Plout because he's a harbor master, I think, at the town of Westbrook, and they're kind of wrangling over the same issue. So, I mean, the first step is to we all agree that it's not a wise decision to use stand-up set paddleboards in a very confined, crowded space. The second aspect would be what's our legal response to that. How do we prohibit those? Is it a per order of selectmen, or do we have to do something more?
I'm sure there's yeah, it has to be a town rule.
Yeah.
We're in the process.
So maybe I don't know. It's up to you, but maybe we ought to check with with our attorney to make sure this is an enforceable thing. We don't.
Imagine.
We need to make sure we can enforce it. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm sure the town has discretion over its own swim areas, but we'll check it out. Find out what document it is and make a modification. So the motion is to prohibit stand-up paddleboards within swim areas.
Inflatable or not. Inflatable or not paddleboards, or inflatable paddleboards, all paddleboards.
Yeah, all model stand-up paddleboards.
All right, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Very good. The next item is the Donate Life America. And let's see. Do these. The Donate Life America is oriented toward organ donors and organ recipients, but primarily organ donors are the source of this whole thing. And we had a ceremony here last Thursday where we elevated a flag on the flagpole, and we had a donor and a recipient of a liver transplant who said a few words, and it was quite a nice little ceremony. And so we're encouraging people who might have an interest in either donating an organ or even designating on one's driving license that you are an organ donor. So if something really bad happens to you, your certain parts of your body can provide comfort to a number of other people. So it's the month of April, and we're happy that the group came together and let us know about this. All right, with that, we will, is there any public comment here? No? Well, then we'll unmute and we'll see.
All participants are being asked to unmute themselves.
Is there any public comment from members on the telephone?
Yes, sir. Hello, am I unmuted?
Yes, please state your name.
Yes, this is Michael Hansen, just checking in again up here on Grandview Ave.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I am.
Just wanted to.
I am working. I'm working on a letter which I want to show to the attorney for you and another person, outlining, because I think if we can get this, I think we should be able to get this letter to you after the lawyer looks at it, so that we would hopefully be able to do something by the town meeting in April. In May.
Okay. Yep.
And I think essentially what it says is that I think the town would be obliged to let other abutters of the parcel know that you have an interest in purchasing the lot, and if there is someone else who feels the same way, then we'd have to figure out what to do about that. If people did not respond or said no interest, then we would proceed. We would probably get an appraisal at that point, and then we would structure a closing essentially and figure out the costs and so forth. But I think probably it would be imperative that we speak to the other abutters, and
Of course.
if they don't have an interest, why, then you'd be deemed the successful bidder. So,
All right.
I'm going to have this reviewed in the next couple of days. I had it drafted, but I haven't typed it out yet and have it to the lawyer to look at it.
All right, well, that is fantastic news. I was just figured I'd pop in real quick, and it's been almost 2 hours later, but yeah, that's good to hear.
All right, sir. Well, I know you've been patient. You're very good.
Well, I know there's a lot of things going on, so.
Yeah. Good. All right, so that's in the works.
All right, everybody have a great day.
All right, we'll stay in touch for sure. Thank you. Anyone else on the phone?
Yes, there is one person on the phone.
All right.
Can you hear me?
We do?
Okay. My name is George Cloud. I live out on Grassy Hill Road.
Spell the last name,
Just to
please.
show me. Yes, Clough.
Okay.
Just to show I'm a team player, fairs, festivals, carnivals are limited to 50% of capacity last year. And outdoor organized gatherings such as fireworks, outdoor concerts are capped at 500 people. Minimum of 6 foot distancing between blankets. Event organizers are responsible for compliance, and seating areas must be clearly delimited. There is also an executive order number 9G that allows municipalities to revert to more restrictive rules if they feel that because of the high COVID infection rate in their local municipality, this represents a higher risk. That's my peace offering before I offer up the real reason for my call. I would like to ask the Board of Selectmen as a group and individually why the resolution on racism has not been acted upon.
I'll respond. I don't subscribe to the idea that we have a public health crisis in Lyme. It seems to me, as I said at the beginning of the process some time ago, that it is it's in a very negative way, that it characterizes the townspeople, and I just don't buy it.
So you're saying that although other municipalities have voted to not only approve the resolution as it's drawn up, but you don't feel the problem of the systemic nature of racism is not evident in Old Lyme at all?
I responded. I don't justify what other towns do. That's just my opinion. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment, but that's what I have to say.
Oh, I'll definitely be commenting, but under other business.
I have no comment.
Well, I would just say that as one resident, I'm not going to let this go unchallenged. I don't think that neither the way in which the resolution is written nor the intent of the resolution itself is to draw attention to individuals within the town that may hold an opinion different than yours or mine. Mine is that we do have issues in this town and we need to address them. Yours, obviously, and I'm assuming it's Mr. Griswold that made the comment he disagrees. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. In that vein, I would only ask that you consider some of the other towns which are surrounding Old Lyme that have supported this resolution. And given the nature of, again, your implication that this has no bearing or no importance for our town.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, in what way is it important and necessary to bring this up at this time? I would say that if we don't, as a town, then we end up with planning commissions sending out letters that state we'd like to keep the character of our town the way it is. I was disappointed in the letter sent out by our planning commission here in town to state legislators suggesting that they don't support changes in these zoning regulations regarding affordable housing. I think that's offensive, and frankly, I don't think, if that's your opinion, that it isn't offensive. You're fully understanding the nature of the problem. Now, I'd love to have a longer conversation about this, but I don't want to tie you up on the phone. I'm just asking, this has not been brought to a vote as far as I know, and you have not considered a vote on this. And I'm asking why. You gave me your opinion. The other two select people have, I guess, stated that it's not an issue that's going to be brought forward and voted on.
Well, this is called public comment, so you can make your comment where it's not designed as a back and forth, really, but I appreciate your opinion, and but it's public comment. All right. Is there anyone else who would wish to say something? All right. If not, we will then turn to other business.
All participants have been muted.
Mary Jo, all you.
Okay. I guess I'll start. I had quite a list, and I had asked him, or emailed both Tim and Chris for his information, some things that I had requested go on the agenda. And a lot of these didn't, so. One of them was the resolution declaring racism a public health crisis. So first of all, I want to thank the caller that called in, Mr. Cloud. I appreciated his support. And quite honestly, I'm just going to say, we've had many people call in here supporting it. We've had people show up here and speak to it. During the height of COVID, they risked their health to come and talk to us. We've had people send a petition in here supporting it. I've had one person that I know called me out on this, but I'm going to try again today. Kind of go over some of the same ground that we've covered since last August, but I requested that the Board of Selectmen engage in a discussion to support the resolution declaring racism a public health crisis. I provided various versions of the resolution for discussion. I provided lots of reading materials, other highly thought of professional organizations who support this. I've been sensitive to your concerns. I know, Tim, you actually spoke in the Black Lives Matter march we had. I'm not an expert, and I hope that we could have some open dialogue on this. CCM, our lobbying group, supports this. Over 21 towns in Connecticut support this. Our legislature is looking at mandating something on this, and I really wanted this town to come out and be leaders. We don't have to wait for a mandate. We can choose to commit to doing the work to assure that Old Lyme resolves, to ensure that our government, our town, provides equitably for residents now and in the future. And the first step is to acknowledge that racism keeps people from enjoying the quality of life we have in Old Lyme. And that we'll continue to do everything we can to assure that our government model is transparent, equitable justice for Old Lymers now and in the future. We should show a commitment to this goal by signing on to the resolution and putting in place the time and effort and people. And we've got so many people, as I already addressed, who are interested in supporting us to help us move forward and make sure that we are doing well, we are doing right. We're making sure that COVID showed us we're all in this together. And I am, again, asking for this board to bring it up for a vote and sign on. Open for discussion if you want to talk about it with me.
I have nothing to discuss.
This is really disappointing, guys.
We've gone over this before.
Yeah, we have.
So,
I know. Mostly I've talked, you guys have ignored it. Tim has given an opinion, but you haven't been open to a discussion. I'm not even sure you've read the resolution, but I just, we can't even negotiate it because we haven't really had a discussion on it. But, as Mr. Cloud noted, our neighboring towns have passed the resolution. And, to have it mandated, then you can complain that it's a mandate, but no one can say this hasn't been brought to our attention since last August. It's a long time. So I will keep bringing it up. I will keep talking about it, because by not signing on to this, we're on the wrong side of history. Okay. I also asked Tim that you put some discussion on the agenda about 176 Boston Post Road. These are the taxpayers who have a home that are landlocked, and they want to, they've agreed to walk their shuttles across Queens Park to the town docks in the morning hours and be gone before, I think it's 9 a.m. And I have asked you to try and resolve the bickering on this. It's gone to the absurd. I don't know how this is like a year or so that they've been having this discussion. These are honest, forthright, trustworthy people who have invested a lot of time, effort in Haynes Park, in a sport that brings the town of Old Lyme a lot of good PR. They would like to practice their sport in the way they'd like to do it in the morning, and then they go to do their other jobs. It seems like we have to get involved, maybe have a meeting with them, put everybody at the table, and put this behind us. I'd like to see Park and Rec talk about something else besides rowing. It's been years, and that's pretty much all they talk about at their commission meetings. And it's really gone too far. So I'm asking you to please bring parties together, have a meeting, let's resolve this.
Well,
Let's get
the
this
Park
done.
and Recreation Commission is in charge of this, and they have been working with the group. They have given them an attorney drafted document which the group seeks to change. And so I'm not going to interfere in what Park and Rec with council is doing. They had a meeting this last week, and so I think this is in their jurisdiction. I think they have, you can speak with Don Bugby and Bob Dunn and members of the commission and see what their opinion is. And I think they feel differently, that they have offered terms that are should be acceptable, and the people at 176 seem to want to change those terms. And they seem like they're getting closer, and then it seems like it's less close. So I think they're still working this out. Hopefully they will come to an agreement. It seems like they're closer, but I think you have a commission that has guidance from an attorney, and I don't think it is appropriate to meddle and try to change what they're working toward.
And what is that at this point? What are they working towards? Because I can't understand.
They have submitted an agreement. The group could sign the agreement and it would be done. They seek to change the agreement, as far as I understand. So I'm purposely not getting into the weeds with this, because this group is the body that governs the parks. And they bought this house with the supposition that they would do certain things, and the Park and Rec is trying to make sure that the operation of the park that's not devoted to rowing is not that impacted. And they, I thought, agreed on certain hours of operation and certain procedures, and so I don't know what the hang-up is, but I think they need to resolve it. And
I think they need some help resolving it. This is going on and on and on. I know you went out there.
It takes two. It takes two to tango, you know.
You did get involved right from the start. You were out there with having meetings with these people. I think it's time for another meeting. You were out there already. I think it's time to have another meeting.
And then they agreed to put an agreement. There's actually a member of the commission is an attorney. So, I mean, it's not that they're not capable. It's, I think Park and Rec has certain goals and objectives, and they're not getting cooperation from their standpoint. So I don't know why this is so elusive, and
What does our town attorney say? I mean, you must be aware of what's going on then, because we're paying for an attorney on our end. What's the status?
He drafted an agreement that seemed to be protect the town and the liability and all that sort of thing, and they wanted to modify it. So as far as that's what I understood. So I think they need to get to an accord, and
So you're not open to a meeting with? You're not open to a meeting then?
What?
You are not open to meeting with the parties?
I would say I would like to have Park and Rec say, gee, we're not getting anywhere. I don't want to get in there and say, Park and Rec, you're all wet. Your ideas are bad. Sign the deal. You know, why doesn't 176 sign the deal?
I think where they're at is like a stalemate. I think both parties, from what I can tell, both groups have presented their positions and they're kind of at a stalemate.
But if the town owns the park and the Park and Commission is in charge of the park, them's the rules. They set the rules. And so if another party who wants to change the rules or make the rules more to their favor, is that appropriate just because it's a rowing group? Should we say, okay, well, we'll just give them what they want? I mean, I don't understand why they can't work it out. And Park and Rec has been working on this, and it's like, this is it just seems to me you're characterizing it like our Park and Rec Commission isn't doing a good job. And I don't know how much you know about it, but
well, I can tell you from the discussions I had here and I brought to the board, I do think that they're verging on treating these taxpayers unfairly. I mean,
well,
these people have agreed. They understand they're landlocked. They've agreed with their next door neighbor to allow them access. They like the folks that come in car topping their boats that come in the morning. The Park and Rec group has allowed those folks to come in with their boats on their cars and then take those shells off their cars and walk them to the dock. I'm not sure there's much difference for these people that are actually walking the boats in, to be honest with you. So I think that's a sticking point. And I think it would be nice to have the Park and Rec try it, see how it goes, and then if there is some safety concerns after they try it, then go back to the table. But I mean, to be doing this for, gosh, over a year.
Well, like I say, it takes two to tango. If they took the agreement that was prepared by council and signed it, it'd have been done months ago. But
but they don't feel it was fair to them. And that
well, that's in the eye of the beholder. I want Park and Rec to keep going on it. They haven't said, could you please help us? And I think they have definite opinions on it, and I think we should respect what they're doing. Their mission is to oversee the parks, and so I don't know why it's taking so long. I can't imagine that they would be that far apart at this point, and I'm hoping they're coming closer together, but I don't think it would be appropriate to start meddling and saying, give them what they want.
I don't think anyone's asking you to give them what they want. I'm asking you to have a meeting to see if they can come to some agreement, and maybe try something, see how it goes. I mean, I think there's something wrong when you have a commission that all they're focused on is one issue as opposed to park and recreational stuff. Beyond that, we have a whole town of people that would love to maybe have some input on parks and recreation. And they've spent a lot of taxpayer dollars on this one little issue, and it seems to me if you put reasonable people at a table, that maybe they can come to a happy medium. But it's not working. It's not working.
If Park and Rec gives them their version, and I guess it's sort of like take it or leave it. I don't know. I mean, they're the ones that are in charge of the park, and they feel strongly about this issue, and
so I guess you're not going to have a meeting. Okay.
No, I'll talk.
That was my request, so I'll taxpayers be damned. Okay. Next, the Board of Education budget referendum running. This came up at leadership meeting, where I think it was last month. I learned that we had a meeting with the school superintendent that you shared that the town registrars, I guess, would not be running the budget vote, and I'm trying to find out why, and it didn't come up before this board. Lime apparently has agreed to continue to run their budget referendum like they typically do. And I think at last month's leadership meeting, Tim, you were going to call a meeting with Ian and all the registrars, and I was just trying to find out why are we doing this?
Well, first of all, why wouldn't the school, with the budget as it is, which is what, a 0.4% increase, spend the time and effort with a voting when it's not controversial? Likely, we have maybe 400 people who vote on school budget, and they feel that having an in-person voting is important. And the town budget, we vote with the town meeting, but this would be something of voting lists and all that sort of thing. I was talking to Kathy Carter, who is one of our registrars, and it was they haven't worked out the format. Certainly, one would think you could have the hours of the voting if you went to the in-person voting. It's not going to be a referendum, because that means now you have to have absentee ballots and town clerk involvement and the whole thing. It's preposterous for this particular budget. But if there was to be in-person voting, what would be the hours?
No, by state statute, it can be noon to 8, and the town's always done 6 to 8.
Town what?
The town's always done 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
14 hours.
But as I read the state statute, it could be 12 to 8, noon to 8.
Well, why don't they just have it like we do at a regular town meeting? Or why don't they just have a public meeting instead of?
I don't know.
Can that be done?
And,
he was supposed to have a meeting. I'm trying to find out what your discussion was. Find out. Well,
you ought to talk to the registrars. I think, I guess, Mr. Mattson was particularly insistent on in-person voting, but to have the kind of staff, and even for 8 hours, that's going to be an expense of which we pay 80 some odd %. And
well, we get reimbursed from the school, though, right? They pay us back.
No, who pays the school?
We pay the school.
No,
still out of our tax money.
My understanding is that
yes, they pay the registrars, but then they come and they ask us for 82 cents of every dollar they spend. So we pay 82 cents.
So is that the real issue? We don't want to pay for this? Is that the issue? Or
no, it's just, it generates, in my opinion, it generates an unnecessary expense. Last year with COVID, the school board did the budget, we did the town budget. You'd think this year they could say, gosh, who's going to object to a budget that goes up under 0.5%? Why do we need to have in-person voting? If it was a controversial budget or a big ticket item or something, then understandably you'd want people to be able to vote with a wider range of time. But for something that might attract, 6,000 voters and 400 show up? And you might have to have 14 hours of voting or 8 hours of voting? So if they insist, the registrars have to figure it out. It's really a district vote, and I'm not sure what the responsibility of the town is, but in the past we have run these things for them, and the registrars are willing to do it, but she said they cannot muster the staff necessary to have poll open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Maybe they could do a short session, say noon to 7 o'clock or even 8 o'clock, I don't know. But, so I think they have to still sort it through, and I don't know whether didn't get the sense that there's agreement on how it's going to operate. They haven't said, we want to have it from X to Y, and we're going to have it in this building and that and so forth. So I think I don't think it's fully structured, which it needs to be, obviously. So, but I think it's regrettable that with this kind of an increase and apparently no controversial aspect to it, why it needs to have the in-person voting aspect. Just have the school board vote it.
Well, who makes that decision?
School.
So if the school then votes to go to what we've been doing for the last, 20 years, will the registrars run this referendum?
Oh, they'll do stuff, but I think she said we will not be able to gear up for the extended period of time. And I guess then the logistics, they have to plan. If it's going to be in the gym, they have to have parking. Means whoever parks in that lot has to make other plans and some more mechanical things. So they can do it, but I don't get the idea that there's a definite plan and everybody's agreed. So they will help them, but it's tough to muster. I don't know how many people they'll need. If you have 400 people over 8 hours, do the math, you don't need legions of people, but you're going to have a certain, you've done voting, you have to have people at different places, and so all that's going to be, you have to line those people up and set it all up, and it's a lot to it.
I know the registrars have a tough job, but
so
here we are a month out.
I guess that's kind of work in process, but it looks like the school wants to have an in-person vote.
I don't know. I mean, I thought that was what this meeting that you were going to have was going to clarify.
Well, they had a meeting. I didn't attend. I don't know if I was informed about the meeting, but I think the registrars and Steve was there, and so I think it seemed that the school was definitely wanting to have the in-person voting, which don't know why.
Okay, so to be determined, I guess?
I'd say.
Okay. All right.
The specifics, that is. I think they're pretty set on having the in-person voting. It's a question of where and what hours and that sort of thing, I guess.
Okay. Moving on for now. One of the issues I had raised a few times, the Hartford Avenue work after the Connecticut Water Project. There's a cracked sidewalk at 80 Hartford Avenue, and then I realized that they paved over some of the shared road markings when they did the road work. And I have contacted your contact there. He finally got back to me today by email. I don't know if he talked to you, but I got a note from him today saying that they would be out there on April 7th to start fixing those.
For Hartford Avenue, for the Vichetto?
Yeah, and I wish I had my notes with me. Yeah, I just got it right before I left. They'd come out, they'd be out there April 7th.
Okay. Because I placed a call too, so.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that really did it, the trick, so that's good. Thank you.
All right, so it's 85 Hartford Avenue.
Well, the shadows and the pavement, the areas they paved over, the safety bike, I don't know what you call bike markings, share the road bike markings, they paved over those. So they have to be stencil those. He seemed to know what I was talking about.
Wow.
He's taking care of it, right?
He says he's coming out April 7th.
All right, good.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty close.
Yeah, no, that was terrific. What else? I asked that talk about where we're at with the salary survey we have been discussing. Has anything been addressed on On that, we looked at a group, even our auditors, as I said, have a function that they could offer to provide that salary survey.
This is muffled. What are you speaking of?
The salary survey?
I haven't gotten it. I haven't made progress in that with all the budget and everything else, so that'll be coming up here, but no action on that yet.
Okay, and then do you guys have any opinion, or where are we at with this new gas station that's proposed on Falls Road? And what activity, if anything, the Board of Selectmen can do or say? It seems like it's getting a lot of play on social media in town. Not favorable.
Well, it's kind of up to zoning and wetlands and all the other departments. It's not up to us. I mean, if it's permitted, it's their decision. It's not us.
Yeah, it just seems like the town has paid for the Halls Road master plan, and this is not a master plan and under discussion, so I was concerned about that.
I think the Halls Road voiced an opinion on it. But as said, I think the various land use people are looking at it, and I might be inappropriate as a board to opine on it at this point. We have other boards and commissions working on it, and I think people could say they personally feel, but I think probably this proceeding should be concluded before I would feel comfortable saying anything. I mean, if it conforms to zoning and so forth, it's they have, in New London, they have car dealerships right across the street from each other, so I guess marketers or site selection people have a different opinion. Now, you may say down that stretch of road, it looks like overkill for 2 gas stations. But if it's compliant, I don't think they have to abide by anybody's personal feelings. If they fit the rules, they can do what they want.
I don't disagree with that, Tim. It's a concern since we've also, laid out money for a master plan that this wasn't a vision of that. So.
But as we all know, the master plan is a vision for privately owned property. The master plan may want any number of things, but if the property owners don't agree, the master plan will just have to adapt, I guess. If people are doing what is legal with their property, that's the conundrum of this whole master plan. If the private property owners don't buy into the concepts, it'll be a master plan. But I get the challenge will be to get the property owners to share the vision of the master plan. And if they choose not to, I don't know that the town can do anything about that.
Okay. The Affordable Housing Commission, we passed the ordinance for the commission, or I guess the ordinance, and we have about 5 people who have applied to be on the commission. So are we going to stand this commission up?
Yeah, I haven't seen the application. I'll have to get Michelle to provide those to me.
She sent an email to all of us with names.
All right, I got to get them from her.
Last month. Because, as you know, this commission is going to have a lot to do to comply with the 830J, which is due next July 2022. So we really need to appoint these people so they can get underway.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we could do that next meeting?
Yeah, we can look at the names and get them on the list, see who they are and so forth.
Okay.
Yep.
And, I'll stop after this. We had talked some meetings ago about possibly you were going to contact Hope about the building lots at the Macnick property. See if they might be interested.
The Macnick property.
McCulloch, sorry. McCulloch property, the two buildings.
McCulloch?
Yeah. I was
Well,
wondering if
That'd be affordable housing, would
Yeah, so when we wait till the affordable housing committee's set up and see what they want, and then if what they choose to do with them, I mean, hopefully we're going to develop them, but I mean, we're going to turn around and sell them to the Hope, maybe. I don't know.
I thought we left that conversation that Tim, you were going to reach out to Hope and see if they might.
Well, I think if you had, we have 5 years to do this from date of purchase, so we're probably 2 years into it, so it's not like we're up against some big deadline.
Working on it.
Yeah, and I know Open Space is interested, and we got to resolve the road issue. I don't want it to become a town road. And so probably we need to, if affordable might be the group to say, okay, we have this very nice possibility here, and there should be a process to offer it to organizations such as Hope and maybe any of the others that would be appropriate, because I think you'd have to share it with those who would be interested. And so a list should be made up of the various entities that would be able to make this a reality, and kind of like when you bid a project, it shouldn't be just one organization, it could be other suitable, and then you'd have to figure out how you would work the process.
Well, I think we got to set up the committee first, and then give them, this is like your first assignment. We've got to deal with this, because there is a time frame sensitive thing with this. And then they can figure out the parameters, how they want to market it and whatever,
Yeah, because I know Open Space is trying to have an initiative that if somebody donates a good sized piece, would that owner be receptive to providing some open, affordable housing options on the property. And so this will not be, hopefully, a unique situation. There'll be others to follow. And so if they can create the structure on what you do to as Chris says, to make it known to groups that might be interested in carrying on, and then we have a structure to do it.
No set? You get a motion to adjourn, or?
I have something I have to bring to the board. If you're not aware of it, I think everybody is. We went down to the transfer station scale house where we're going to do some repairs on the ceiling, on the roof. It looked like it was leaking. Well, it was. We were down there, we had our mask on, we tore this sheetrock down, and the top of the sheetrock was totally black with mold and mouse feces. It doesn't stop in the room we tore down. The whole top half of that, the whole building inside is all mold on top of the sheetrock. That's a health problem for my two guys sitting there, and we have to move on it now. I can't wait till June. We've got to at least get Part A going and get a temporary building down there with power. And then from that point, after everything's disconnected, Phil is getting some prices now on Eagle leasing trailer. and some other things, but I've got prices here. Temporary carefree building is $6,000. To disconnect the power from that existing trailer and run temporary power to the new one and outfit it with lights and stuff is $5,500 because we have to bury a power line and we have to set up a junction box off the side of the trailer to run the power into.
How much was that? How much was that?
5,005?
Yeah, 5.5.
Is that usable for the next
That's just
step?
temporary power in there.
Yeah, but
Temporary power, but we have to bury it into the temporary shed. And disconnect the power from the main shed and take the cameras out of it because we have cameras down there now. And then to disconnect the water is $2,500. The problem with that is why it's so expensive is we have to then find the water line and we have to make some type of valve that keeps the water going to the bus barn because we thought we were saving money, and when we built the bus barn, we never drilled a well, which was the most foolish thing we ever did. So that's another expense. I also put in $2,000 miscellaneous because Chris knows the other thing. You don't know what we're going to run into when we start digging up stuff that's over 15 years old. The trailer is absolutely shot. I talked to Phil, he said about having someone come take it apart, lift it out. I said, no, Phil, I will take that trailer apart and dispose of it. The new building right now, Phil was supposed to have a price on it, but my main concern right now is getting those two guys out of this building. It's a health problem. It's not healthy. Who knows how long they've been in there with it. If one of them all of a sudden comes out with the symptoms, we're in trouble because we know now that the process trailer it's got a problem.
yeah, we'll go that way. What's the cost of the demo? Do you think it?
The demo I'm going to take care of. And what we're going to have to pay for is the boxes to haul it out.
Yeah. So how much?
Put it in the box.
But I mean, I can't tell you what I can't tell you what that's
Couple?
gonna be. Huh?
Couple thousand?
Yeah, probably. I'd say I put it up around 3,000. But that's gonna.
Huh?
Yeah, it should be under a couple. You probably don't get it all in one can.
It's all metal. It's gonna be crushed up.
Well, you can put the metal in the recycling bin if you can get it apart.
Well, they'll have to drop me 2 boxes there, and I'll just pick it up and stuff in the box and I'll get out of there. Well, this is the first step we have to do. When the new block trailer is out of there, we have to pour a slab to put the new building on because that trailer is sitting on masonry blocks. It's only a trailer. It's actually a construction trailer, is what it is. So we have to pour a pad. We're probably going to have to run some sidewalks in front of it so that they can walk in and out of the trailer without, because we're going to keep the rails and everything on the trailer. The building will go in and then there'll be a sidewalk that runs so they can walk up and get into the trailer.
But
The new trailer.
you'll go up steps into the building because the building will be elevated, right?
No, we're going to keep the building at the same height it is now.
Yeah, but it's got to be elevated from the ground level, right?
Well, we're going to build the slab up. I've got plenty of material to put in there for base to take it so they can form a slab.
But how much do you elevate the trailer off the surface of the ground?
It will sit right on the slab. The
You know,
box will sit right on the slab.
How tall will the slab be?
The slab would probably have to be 8-10 inches thick to hold it, I think. What do you think, Chris?
But there's a
I don't
big
weigh much.
there's an elevation up to where the platform is for the scale, right?
Yeah.
So if you were
We'll have to fill that, and then they'll put the form in and pour a slab on top of it. We'll have to compact it.
Too much to say, yeah. So you're going to build it up, then pour a slab.
And then pour slab.
Okay.
We have the material to build it up at my shop. It won't cost us anything for gravel or anything. But that's all got to be done on part B. My thing right now is we need $16,000 to get them out of that building. And I got it, and we went through this with the school, when the school had mold. They raised holy hell over here, I understand, and the teachers didn't want to go to work. I can't keep these guys in.
all right, you've said that.
Yeah.
So 16 grand, we have that building fund.
Right.
So we can get a recommendation, to review the numbers and make sure we have plenty enough, 'cause in case we forget something.
There's plenty
And then
there
get
right
Board
now.
of Finance to have a meeting to agree to use that fund as well.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, this 16 grand will be plenty to put this temporary shed in. It'd probably be a little more, that's why I put the $2,000 in there.
All right, so
You got 17.5 or 18 almost.
no,
No?
it's 1,000, 5,500, 2,500, and 2,000.
And another 2,000 for demo.
No. Oh, okay. Well, that could be part B. But
No, the $2,000, why I put that in there, Tim, is, and Chris was there too. I don't know what we're gonna run into when we start digging in that.
Well, you got 2,000 for contingency, but do you want to, in part A, to get rid of the old building?
Yeah. But
So that's 2 more thousand.
But that most likely can come right out of the budget, the hauling fee and stuff. We've got enough in there.
But if you need to rent the dumpsters and stuff, the roll-offs.
The dumpsters we don't rent, we get it right from Willie Waste. They just drop them off, we fill them up, and they charge us just.
So you say the demo can be done for no money, no new money out of the account?
Well, I don't, they can come right out of the budget of the Dumpster landfill, should be plenty.
we might
We've
do
got
separate
extra
tipping
money,
fees.
let me explain something. We have extra money in that landfill right now because we're not paying $13 a ton in a hauling fee for recycling.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
you have adequate, so something doesn't come along and we say, oh boy, we should have thought about that. You got 2,000 for contingency. I just want to make sure that there are no surprises.
I would put the 2 grand in there just in case.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just wondering if it should be more.
Why don't we make a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance 19,000, which we know they can appropriate.
Right.
No, they're just gonna use the building fund money.
Okay,
They're not appropriating anything.
so that should be our motion then, that they use 19,000 out of.
Well, I don't know. So
So I just have
Six.
a few more questions here.
Yeah.
And
12.
trying to.
Yeah.
You're not going to like the questions probably,
That's
but
16.
okay. So we've got this moldy building. You're going to put up a temporary building.
Right.
How long is that going to take? That's going to take a week or two to get it all tied in. And then if Phil calls Eagle Leasing tomorrow and they say, we can have, they're manufactured office buildings. They come right down on a trailer, probably be here by Friday.
I understand that, but I still have to get the building out of there. I have to take it and get the.
I understand that, but so if they can get there that quick, why do we need the temporary building?
Because you can't, what am I gonna do with those guys? You can't shut the dump down.
Well, you're going to have to shut something down when you put in the temporary building.
No, I'm not, because
What are you going to do about the scale?
the scale we're gonna go with per load.
Okay, so you can still do the per load.
What do I do with them?
So I'm just saying hypothetically. Don't get upset. Say Eagle Leasing says I can get you or whoever leasing, get you a building. I can have it here Monday. You get the thing done, whatever. We close the dump for a day. You demo that, clear it up, and they're going to put it in exactly the same spot.
Got to make the pad too.
But we might not have to do the pad.
You have to do that. You don't have a choice.
What's it on now?
Block. The trailer sits on block. I'm not, no, if we're, you can't put that building on block. No. Let's do it once and do it right. I want to spend this and do it right so that 30 years down the road, this thing's still going to be there. That dump transfer station's not going anywhere. If we're not going to put a slab in there and do it right, you got to remember something. There's 2 guys in there 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. We got to do this right. The Band-Aid it is why you got that trailer down there now, because we made.
I'm not talking Band-Aiding it.
Well,
I'm just trying to.
Now, can this?
I understand why.
Logistics and finance.
I don't like spending this money and then know the only thing we're going to save out of it is the building, because I'll take it up the garage. I need a new shed. That's only, so you're taking $12,000 and we don't have a choice.
Okay, so then we get the new building, say, right? Then we got to pay another to hook up the water, hook up new power. There's going to be all that. So I'm just saying is maybe see how long this other building's going to take. if it's possible.
But you don't have the time. Even if I rip that out.
Even with
even
this,
if I-
you're
even if I- let's
taking
say-
weeks to do this.
Understand that, no, this will be, once that new building's arrived, they'll have this running in 2-3 days it'll be done.
And when are you going to get the building?
Even if I rip the trailer out, okay, now the trailer's gone. I've got 2 guys down ready to sit in their car. Now, after we get it done, but heaven forbid we don't run into any trouble, now we have to come in, the contractor has to dump this stuff down there, to dig it down to a hard thing, put the new gravel in, pour a slab, which you really shouldn't set anything on for 30 days for concrete, if you really want to do it right, because it can crack, and we're putting a box on this thing.
I understand how the concrete's poured. I'm just wondering about the temporary building. I'm just wondering if it's the same amount of time.
It can't be done.
Okay.
Now, this electric, can't the electric be done in such a fashion that it can supply the little building and then it can also supply the new building without too much? How much would you have to redo the electric?
Electrical, we're going to disconnect it and then move it so we can do this. When a new building comes in, they just go back, we have to run the wire into the new building, and it's done. You remember, we just put, and it's a shame, I just wired that building to run on generator because it never had a generator. So when we lost power, the scale was gone. And the boxes up on the hill, you know, the compactors, now we got something that we're running. This is plan A. Phil is supposed to be getting prices on the other thing. They will have it by the Board of Finance. But, because he's getting a price on moving, there's some unit that you have to add more wire or something to the building to make the scale run. That to me is a waste, because now you're gonna have to rip it out and redo it. Go by what we did years ago before the scale, per load. We used to get $15 a truckload, $30 if it towed the trailer, and $40 for a mason dump. That's what we're gonna have to go back to until this is done. But the other thing is, we gotta get this in here so I can get that trailer out of there first thing. Then you can really start visualizing where you're gonna put things. Because that you know what I'm saying? We gotta open that space up and see what we're gonna have underneath it. That will give us more of an idea how much fill we gotta put in there, what it's gonna take. But the trailer's gotta go.
But is there a way?
And I understand what you're saying, but time frame and to keep that place operating and my guys safe, this is the way we gotta go.
Could the electric wire to the temporary building just go overhead and minimize trenching and conduit and all that stuff?
I don't know if they'll.
We gotta get the heights for the roll-offs in there.
Well, no roll-off isn't gonna bother, but my concern is, could we go underground? I can look at that. I don't think it's gonna change the price much, because if the price is, we gotta put an electrical box in behind the building now, so that we can run the power into something legally, so they gotta blow up and then run it in.
But like when we started the electric up at the restroom building,
Right.
it was just like they put them on, like 2x4 poles and a wire going to the
They
building.
have that
Temporary power, yeah.
Why not?
Well, we can try that, but we still gotta come up with a figure here, and if we don't spend it, it goes back.
Yeah, I understand that, but 5,500 is a lot. You might have to spend
It might
another
not be the-
5,500 to go to the
These
permanent.
are budget numbers, it could be a little less, the water could be less,
Yeah.
but this is where 19 grand, like she said. that
Well,
doesn't
I would say
I'm okay
not.
with the 19 grand, and I'm fine with
Yeah,
putting it to
don't hate spending this money for me.
the Board of Finance that. I'm just
You-
asking additional questions.
You word it not to exceed, so it'll be 19 available, but you'd only spend what you have to spend, of course.
Well, that's fine.
I think everybody here knows that I'm not gonna spend what they don't have to spend.
At this point,
My main concern is, I know I said it, is I gotta get them out of that building.
and when did you find this problem? About when did you find this out?
It's been a week now, week and a half ago.
So it's a public
It's been a
health,
week.
it's another public health issue. Okay. So I will modify my motion to recommend the Board of Finance.
I didn't get a second, I don't think, so.
No, I second.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, Okay.
Now, I have another question, because then we'll do...
Wait a minute.
Okay.
She's doing the motion.
You guys are...
That, modify my motion to recommend to the Board of Finance that, we use not to exceed $19,000, for the, transfer station,
Temporary building.
temporary building,
And you might say the funds to come from the building improvement fund.
I think I said that. I'll try again. Recommend to the Board of Finance that they utilize $19,000 from the building improvement.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed $19,000 from the building improvement fund for the temporary building, needs at the transfer station.
You seconded it?
Second.
Any other discussion on that? And can you start working up what this phase 2 is? Do you have
We're working on that right now. We'll have some, I'm with Phil, giving a little, hurry up, Phil.
Yeah.
Or hopefully by the end of the week, we'll start having something there. I'll tell him to get the price on once we know, Eagle Leasing, he called them last week, and he says the guy can get back to him. I said, well, give me a number. I said, because we gotta get this done.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, are you, the breathing concerns that you have for the guys, is there anything they should be wearing?
No, they have a mask on. They have them down there. I hope they're wearing them. I mean,
You can leave the doors open.
it's nice now that there's a door.
All right, it's getting to be 7 o'clock or something. So, all right, ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
And you'll kind of rough up some numbers for this permanent
We're
thing.
going to get the numbers together for you, hopefully by Friday. If not, it'll be Monday next week. I'm in Phil's hip pocket. Every time you call, what do you want now? He says, so we got to get going.
Good. Okay, well, good work to get it framed up
Thank
here.
you very much, Will. I really appreciate the support, believe me, because
I'll call Dave Kelsey and say, in view of the situation, he may have to schedule a meeting very soon.
because we can't wait till.
When can you take delivery of the building, the little building?
Once I get the okay that this is gonna go, I'll have Bill call them to make sure the building, where we need a door and a window in it, and it'll be there, and then we're gonna start. I mean, actually, if I get the okay, I can't disconnect that building yet, but we can. No, I can't, because I need lights. So, once I get the okay with this, the building will be there, shortly. I'm gonna take them off.
Okay, I'll just tell Dave,
I can't.
because they normally meet on a Tuesday, but maybe they could do something this week.
Yeah, because there's no meeting now next until June.
Well, forget that, they'll meet, but it's just a
I
question.
really appreciate it, but once we got, Nicole already said that fund can be used for this. I did check with her.
Yeah. Okay,
But I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
I couldn't do it without you.
All right.
Believe me.
Make a motion to adjourn.
It is 6:57. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Ed, just out of curiosity, if you have the ground here, and then you have the decking up here, what's the distance between where you come up the stairs and go across and enter the building and stuff? 3 feet, 4 feet?
Maybe a couple feet, Tim. I don't think it's more than that, because you got to remember, it's deceiving because I have that wood there. The trailer sits on blocks, and that trailer's probably only.
So if you have the building thing
Yep.
behind it, and this goes in front of it,
Yep.
or maybe not the whole
There'll
way.
be one door. The ramp will be back, till they can walk in, and only be one door. There'll
But
be
the door has to be specially cut then, right?
Tell you what, that all comes with it. You tell them what you want, Chris, and they put everything in that.
Yeah.
Eagle.
Yeah, 'cause it's
Check
normally
around,
the-
I've heard Floater Farms.
But
cheaper
is
than
the
Carefree, but
is your overhead high enough to have a passenger door 2 or
yeah.
3 feet up?
These are actually the buildings that you see, they put those pods down when the schools are culminating in schools.
Well, the reason I asked is I went and got a test over in Saybrook. They have the Eagle buildings there, and of course the doors are there. And I didn't notice the top of the door to the top of the unit. If it's like 2 feet, you could move the door up 2 feet without any problem getting into the overhead inside and stuff. I mean, it just...
Yeah, they got somewhere, they know what they're doing.
Is that your envelope? Chris, is that your... Leaving those checks again?
We already got deposits.
All right, and as soon as I'll have some information for you, I think for the Plan B. But
Yeah, good.
thank you. I appreciate it, Kevin.
All right.
I really do, thanks.
Good. Well, it's a needed. You can't not do it.
They get sick, then we're